There is a kind of power that does not announce itself with weapons. It does not march. It does not shout. It survives when armies fall. It speaks softly when empires collapse. And it remains standing long after revolutions declare it obsolete. This is not the power of territory, it is the power of legitimacy. Because when governments crumble, people do not ask who ruled yesterday. They ask who still stands today. And for nearly 2,000 years, one institution, rooted in Rome, operating from the Vatican, and woven into global politics, has always answered that call. By the time the Roman Empire began to fracture, something unexpected had already happened. Rome had lost control of its borders. Its armies were stretched thin. Its authority was questioned everywhere. But inside its cities, another structure was quietly strengthening. The Roman Catholic Church did not rise after the empire fell. It rose while the empire was failing. When imperial governors disappeared, bishops remained. When courts collapsed, church councils judged disputes. When tax systems failed, monasteries fed the poor. People did not follow the church because it promised heaven. They followed it because it offered order. And in moments of chaos, order becomes the most powerful currency on earth. Long before Christianity ruled consciences, it gained something far more dangerous: protection. When Roman emperors stopped persecuting Christians and began favoring them, belief transformed into infrastructure. Churches gained land. Clergy gained legal exemptions. Bishops gained access to imperial courts. Most importantly, the church adopted Rome's administrative genius. Dioceses mirrored provinces. Church law echoed Roman law. Authority flowed upward, not outward. Christianity did not dismantle Rome's system. It inherited it. So when emperors faded, the system remained, wearing a different symbol, but operating with the same discipline. As invasions tore across Europe, something unprecedented occurred. A religious leader stepped into the role of a statesman. Popes negotiated with warlords. They brokered peace treaties. They managed land, grain, and diplomacy. When a pope confronted a feared invader, it was not faith that stopped the assault. It was symbolic authority. Rome still spoke, and the world still listened. From that moment on, the papacy was no longer a spiritual office alone. It became a sovereign institution. The most decisive political act in church history came without a battle. A pope placed a crown on a king's head. With that single gesture, a new reality was born. Rulers required religious validation. Authority flowed from altar to throne. Kings ruled land, but Rome ruled legitimacy. This was power without armies, control without occupation. For centuries, nearly all literacy passed through church hands. Monks copied history. Clergy taught law. Universities emerged under papal charters. The church did not just guide souls, it shaped how civilization remembered itself. Political philosophy, ethics, governance, even rebellion, all framed within Catholic moral language. Whoever controls education does not need to control armies. They shape the minds that command them. When the Pope called for war, kings obeyed. For the first time in history, soldiers crossed borders not for nation or wealth, but under a single spiritual command. Rome could mobilize continents. No empire had ever achieved that without direct rule. While kingdoms rose and fell, the church built something quieter and stronger: a complete legal system. Canon law governed marriage, inheritance, contracts, and morality. Church courts rivaled royal courts. Excommunication could dismantle a reign without spilling blood. This was governance beneath governance, a state within states, and unlike kingdoms, it did not collapse when leaders died. When Europe fractured religiously, Catholicism lost territory, but it did not lose its core strength: centralization. The papacy reformed internally, Jesuits expanded globally, diplomacy replaced force. While others divided, Rome consolidated. It stopped thinking continentally. and started thinking globally. As European powers colonized the world, Catholicism traveled with them, not as a conqueror, but as a civilizational framework. Churches stabilized colonies. Schools shaped elites. Doctrine fused with governance. Rome did not rule empires. It outlived them. Today, the Vatican commands no military, yet it holds permanent observer status at the United Nations. It maintains formal diplomatic relations with over 180 countries. It influences peace negotiations, sanctions dialogue, and humanitarian corridors. Popes mediate conflicts. They shape migration policy. They guide global moral debates, from war to economics to climate. When modern governments face moral deadlock, they still turn to Rome, not because it can force outcomes, but because it confers moral legitimacy. Empires depend on force. Ideologies depend on belief. But institutions that endure depend on adaptation. Roman Catholicism did not survive by resisting power. It survived by standing where power eventually arrives. When swords ruled, it crowned kings. When empires ruled, it negotiated treaties. When nations ruled, it mastered diplomacy. And when the modern world questioned authority itself, it positioned as conscience. It still stands, not because it conquered the world, but because the world again and again found itself negotiating with Rome.